So here I am, and hey Scott, how you doing? So I'm going to wait until a couple people show up, and then I'm going to start ambling aimlessly about how I designed Planet Apocalypse, and then I will answer questions, and we'll in general be doing things. We have no set program, but I'm really good at rambling, so there's that. So if you have let's see, how do I tell how many people are watching? Is there any way of telling? Hey, Simon. Huh. This does not tell me how many people are watching, which is annoying. Hey, AJ. And Luke is here, the bane of my existence. Sorry, Luke. You know it's true. Not many of our backers get called out specifically in our campaigns. So, please, you're trying to replace your video card while you're watching my Facebook thing? That seems like an exercise in futility. Hell Penguins, yes. So here's my plan for the Hell Penguins. So as you know, the penguins are become extinct in my game Invasion of the Brood. So the Hell Penguin is the very last penguin in existence. And in fact, it's not an enemy yet. It might end up being an enemy. But at the moment I'm thinking that the players have to keep it from being killed and move it around. And there's a little eyeball with a number. That's how many people are watching. Look, we struggled for like 4 minutes to figure out how to make this go live. The new Facebook... Oh, there it is. I see the eyeball with the number. Okay, there's enough people. 22. That's plenty. Hey, hello from France. So, Fortan, you may know that I love France, and I have visited France a couple times, and I want to visit it more. And one of my main collaborators, Pitt, is from France. And one of my goals whenever he comes to America is to treat him to an American food, because I know the French are very snooty about their food, with justification. So I give him an American food that he will have to say is good. And then there's it. Okay, so the way Planet Apocalypse came to be was that I, right after doing Cthulhu Wars, I was thinking about what the next game would be. And the very first game I thought of was to do a game based on Doom. And I thought about it, okay, so it's going to be cooperative, because if it's cooperative, the demons can be super terrifying and powerful. I don't have to balance them to make them equal to the players. And I actually initially went to Adrian Carmack, one of the artist partners from the original id, who is my buddy, still is my buddy, though now he has moved to Ireland, so I don't see him anymore. I guess he likes the sweet tax breaks Ireland gives artists. But, and more power to him for doing that. So I went to Adrian Carmack, he drew some things up, and I got excited about it. And then I went down a rabbit hole of doing other things for a while. But I kept thinking about a Doom-type game. I wanted to set it not far in the future, maybe a little bit in the future, but basically modern times, so that it's more not relevant. Like, things seem grittier to me if you're fighting it with modern soldiers than if you have futuristic soldiers. So I wanted to have modern soldiers, and I wanted to have a tower defense and combat feel, where the players are constantly torn between setting up traps for the monsters and moving around, and also with the monsters pouring through. One of the things I like about a tower defense co-op game is that you can't sit there and be idle. The things are constantly advancing against you, which I liked. So Planet Apocalypse got that feel out of it, with the demons pouring through on you. And then the next step was, I thought the art was key. My experience with Cthulhu Wars was having a really strong art vision, really made that game sing, and people really liked that. And when I did God's War, we had an art vision, but we had like lots of different artists all doing it, and it wasn't really as coherent as Cthulhu Wars. And though I like the God's War art, and I like the fact that each faction looks different, I think overall it doesn't have as strong a theme as Cthulhu Wars. So we went to Keith Thompson, and Keith Thompson is a artist who has done games, he has done movies. His movie, The Ritual, is it The Ritual, Lincoln? Keith Thompson's movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Ritual has a monster in it that is very much like a Planet Apocalypse monster. And anyway, I got to him, and he liked and he was the art vision for this. And we made very medieval looking monsters, as you know if you've seen it. So that's what we did. A fun fact, Doom is what got me condemned in Congress. Members of Congress, surprisingly, it was Democrats, not Republicans. I'm sure there was Republicans hated me too, but it was Democrats that held up copies of my game in Congress and denounced me because obviously Doom has caused every school shooting since time began. And there was a long article actually about it where they explained that Doom teaches you how to properly run through a thing and shoot a lot of people, because Doom teaches you to run, take one shot, and keep going and not stick around and see what happened, which is completely the opposite of what Doom teaches you. Doom teaches you to find an enemy and shoot him again and again and again until he drops. Okay, so my favorite demon, Simon, is of course the Spider Mastermind. Although if you've seen the wall that's falling down in well, you know what? My favorite demon is the Sandy Petersen Grillis. That is the first player marker from the first campaign, because it's me as a Grillis, and so that's fabulous. Bonjour, Fabrice. So those of you who are from France joining us, I'm very happy to see you. I want you to know that although I speak a little French and I butcher what I say, my son, Arthur, speaks fluent French and lived in Wallonia and France for 2 years. So there. And so whenever I go to Europe and there's French people around, I make Arthur translate for me. Now, it's been years since he was there, but I think he retains some of the abilities. Also, my wife speaks a little French, so there's French things around me. Anyway, so what was I talking? Oh yeah, my favorite demon is probably the Sandy Petersen thing. Then comes the Spider Mastermind, and then comes the thing that's behind the wall we're tearing down right now in Planet Apocalypse 2. When that's torn down, you'll see like a demon that will probably be a lot of people's first favorite, but I always had a soft spot in my head for the Spider Mastermind. And in fact, here's a fun fact. So in original Doom, so the main playtester of Doom was in fact me. Okay, I mean, John Carmack didn't play it, right? Adrian played it a little bit. John Romero played it a lot, but he mostly just played deathmatch. So the person that was playing the single player run through of the game, which is what we thought would be the main sales of it, was me, and so I ran through every single level at the hardest level we had at the time, which wasn't Nightmare, to beat each level. And because if you're killed, you start with a pistol, I played every single level starting just with a pistol, okay, to make sure it was balanced. And as a result, I discovered that the very hardest demon in Doom to beat was the Spider Mastermind. If you start with a pistol, he's super tough. If you start with just a pistol and you go up against the final boss of episode 2, which is the Cyber Demon, he's not as tough as the Spider Mastermind, because you pick up rockets really early, you can go kill him. But if you are going into the Spider Mastermind level with a pile of rockets and shotguns, he's actually not that hard to take down. But I didn't know that because I played every level starting with a pistol. So then a lot of people afterwards said, Sandy, the Cyber Demon is way harder to kill than the Spider Mastermind. What's wrong with you? But anyway, well, they didn't necessarily call out me. They called out id Software as a group, right? But so that was my fault. But if you're playing Doom the proper way, I think it should be played. Every level at start, you'll kill yourself and start with a pistol, and that'll be fair. Which demon in Planet Apocalypse and the Turn did I find the most challenging to design for gameplay mechanics? Okay, so the hardest demons to design were invariably the Fourth Circles and the Lords. The very hardest demon in Planet Apocalypse 1 to design was probably Scylla, with her multiple heads, and having that be balanced with her heads against not having heads was quite tough. The second hardest was probably Chthon, because Chthon's ability to increase his dice, I had to balance against not increasing the dice and how many times the players go against him and how high it gets before he's killed. There was a lot of math crunching with that. In Planet Apocalypse 2, probably the hardest one to design was Choronzon, because the Choronzon is trying to attack you kind of randomly, and balancing the randomness with a demon that is still a threat was an issue for me. That was kind of hard to do. Actually, another one that was hard to do was the guy we're calling Feludo. Oh, you know what? That's my favorite demon. The giant mantispid. He's awesome. So the mantispid, and the reason that he's my favorite is because he is specifically eating my annoying son Lincoln. That's the guy he's eating in the thing. So I love him. So Feludo, and he's named Feludo because Feludo means son of games. Okay. And so it's like Petersen Games, but we're just using the son of a games part. I didn't want to call him Petro Feludo. That'd be a little too on the nose, you know. So Feludo, was hard to balance because it took me several tests to figure out how many parasite tokens to get him so it would work out and he'd be useful. And so I wasn't killed too fast, but he was scary. And I didn't really want Feludo to be a 4-crown demon that was super hard to beat. I know he's like the special secret thing, but you don't need, really, the 4-crown demons don't necessarily see that much screen time because they're scary. So I wanted Feludo to be a little more common. So Feludo was a hard. Hey, dog, stop it! Sorry, I got a dog here with a tiny brain. That's it. So let's see the new regions. So the new regions, Simon, in the. Whoa, Greg Robertson's here. That's a blast from the past. Hey, Greg, it's good to hear from you again. You've been on radio silence for a while. I know there's been health issues. So, the new regions in the Nightmare Pack and the Pack of the Crypt are Oh, you mean you don't mean the maps. You mean the regions. Got it. Okay, the new regions are Italy, Poland, the Republic of China, and the People's Republic of China. So I have both Taiwan and mainland China. I know that officially for both nations, they're not separate nations, but certainly their military and their regions are different. And then I have Italy and Poland. And mostly I have Italy because I wanted to have the Swiss Guard, because it's cool. And I wanted to have Poland because I've been to Poland and I liked Poland. And so... I like everything about Poland, except I think its flag is kind of dumb. But that's, what can I say? So those are the guys I added. I'm not sure why Poland got in there. It just did. So there it is. But Italy has the Carabinieri and the Swiss Guard. And Poland has their territorials. And I gave the People's Republic of China airstrikes for one of their things. And what the airstrike ambush does, it sits in the area and has a huge attack, but after it fires, it goes away because airplanes don't stick around. So you have one big boom and then they're gone. So that's, what's my favorite demon's name? Well, let's see. You mean in the ones I was talking about here? Like Feludo in those, or the Spider Mastermind, or I guess my favorite demon who is not in the game is Ukobak, who is the demon of fried food. So he seems like a real threat during the Texas State Fair. So hey, there's a Polish guy. So there it is. I put in Poland just for Slawbergen, so he would have Poles. So there it is. That's the idea behind the Poles. So the Polish special unit, most of the units are like actually regular ones from other nations. They get special forces, army, citizen militia, and volunteers. And their special unit, the territorials, basically their ability is that if you don't have a patrol, you can recruit if you're in an area that has a territorial ambush. Because they let you, they set up a little area there, kind of like a start zone. So that's their cool thing. And the Swiss Guard, because they're cool, they give you a luck when one of them dies. So that's kind of nice. So it gives you an extra reason to want to let them die. They don't have a good attack because I don't think they're actually super well equipped. I mean, I know they have like machine guns and stuff, but compared to a regular military unit, So yeah, isn't that great that there's a demon of fried food? I know, it's like Ukobak. So Ukobak is a great demon, and you can look up pictures. It's Ukobach, and a Frenchman did an awesome dictionary infernal where he had a picture of Ukobak. And if it doesn't make you want to go home and fry up a big bunch of fritters right now, Wales, I already did the United Kingdom. So, does Wales have a different army than England or Scotland? I totally have the United Kingdom in the game. By the way, Andrew, if you are a Wales nationalist, let me say that my grandfather is from Wales. He spoke Welsh. I don't have English ancestry. I have Welsh and Danish ancestry, and like all right-thinking Welsh and Danes, we hate the English. So I have Irish ancestry too. So I mean, I don't actually hate. I love every English person I know. It's like in general that the English are a force of evil, right? So who's my favorite hero? Whoa. He's probably Bruno Dawn is my favorite hero because he's based on the works of one of my favorite directors from Italy, Bruno Mattei, who's an absolutely terrible. Well, Andrew, let's do it this way. All of the UK soldiers come from Wales. Okay, there you go. You can use the Bruno Mattei is an Italian director who was actually really terrible, but his movies, despite being terrible, are always also really entertaining. And the character Bruno Dawn is based on a character from Bruno Mattei's movie Strike Commando, which has the most hilarious fist fight in the history of films. Hey, it's a Dane. My folks actually went to Denmark to look up their ancestors because my great grandpa came over from Denmark, Peter Petersen, and they actually found them. So maybe I will go someday and meet the Danes. And I sent my son to Copenhagen for his wedding present was a honeymoon in Copenhagen. So there's that. Bruno Dawn is cool because his ability is that he is delusional. He's basically totally insane. So first of all, his ability is that he can get any trooper type that you're not currently using. So like if you want to have a UK unit, even though you're not based in the UK, you can have one because you're delusional, and you can recruit those. And every time that you're the captain, you get a luck, but you can't let anyone else use the courage pool because you're literally insane. And you also get 3 courage if you end your turn in a Force Circle demon area. And usually people don't like to end their turn in a Force Circle demon area for obvious reasons, because Force Circle demons are like bad. But Bruno Dawn likes to go there, so that's his thing. He also has kind of a crazy upgrade path where like there's one at each end and they move towards the middle. He has a start at each end and they kind of go together towards the middle. I mean, they go like this, like an S, but because of the shape of the thing. But he's really wacky. So that's he's fun. Is there Lord I couldn't defeat? Okay, so here's the deal, Sebastian. I have not defeated Cthulhu on the higher difficulty levels. I have gotten close at some of the higher levels of the maps. I think it is theoretically possible to beat Cthulhu on the final Inferno map, but I have not done it. And anyone that does it, I will owe them a steak dinner. Or if they're vegetarian or vegan, I will owe them whatever dinner they prefer. But yeah, it's... or for that matter, the Hindu will not eat... my Hindu friends won't eat steak, so I'll have to get them some other kind of dinner, but... if you show me proof that you have beaten Cthulhu or the Spider Mastermind on the Inferno level, then I will get you a steak dinner. So there it is. Of course, you have to come to me to get it, because I'm not going to travel to you and buy you a steak dinner. Hey, so Fortanas plays at the pit. Thanks. So, let's see. What else is there to say about Planet Apocalypse and other game titles? So, one of the things I initially was planning to do with Planet Apocalypse 2, and this will give a look at my game design insight, is I thought, hey, maybe it would be cool to have alternate first, second, and third circle demons. And in fact, the original purpose of calling them first, second, and third circle was not only to keep track of them better, but also just in case I ever wanted to do different ones. And I made several tries to design different ones, and the problem was that either the different ones were trivial differences, like they had a lower attack and more defense, and is that really worth making a whole new demon for? They're fine as they are, or I gave them some special weird ability, like they curse you or something, and they do something weird that way. But then that made the game more complicated and slower, and slower is bad. So I said, I don't want the game to be slower. I don't want the game to be more complicated. I want it to move swiftly along. And so I said, so I'm going to reserve my. So in fact, if you look at the new things we've added, all the swarms used to be alternate first, second, and third circle. So the Killikee swarm, the Imp swarm, and the Wraith swarm used to be alternate first, second, and third circle demons, and I upgraded them to be actual fourth circle demons because I couldn't take the thing. Okay, so the Hell Penguin's abilities are probably going to be that it's a unit that the players control and the players move, and it has a toughness of 1, and if it's killed, and some hit points, and if it's killed, then you lose the game immediately. So you have to keep it alive, and it has to move every turn. So that's what it is. Where did I get the design idea of the lords from? Well, different lords came from different sources. You can probably tell that a lot of them came from old pagan or Greek sources. And the reason for that is I'm actually riffing off the medieval concept that the ancient Roman and Greek gods, and Norse gods for that matter, were actually demons that people were worshiping. So I kind of I didn't use the straight up, I didn't use like Odin or Zeus, but like some of the lesser ones, some of the lesser beings like Geryon, I'd throw in and have him be a demon. So that was where the lords came from. And I've done that here. Like for example, Tuchulcha is an Etruscan demon. I wanted to have a female demon. Tuchulcha is like a pretty wild female demon, so I throw her in. And also having a fertility demon is always good. Everyone loves the Magdalene, so here's another fertility demon. Mizu is of course actually a demon from Japanese beliefs. So he's just, and some of the other demons like Belphegor is a demon from Christian beliefs. So I'm not like trying to belittle or mock the Japanese. I'm saying this is the name of a Japanese demon. So it's there. Belphegor is a Christian demon, it's there, and so forth, But then there's some monsters in it like Scylla, Hydra. Stroma is sort of based on Charybdis, so it came from all kinds of sources. Okay, so what is my favorite other co-op game? Wait, who's asking me that? That looks like me asking me that. That's weird. Okay, talk a little about the PA5e book. Yes, so the PA5e book, the basics of this is that Planet Apocalypse is about the end of the world. And as it happens, I've been playing role-playing games since 1974. Okay, so I have done a lot of different campaigns, and I've had plenty of campaigns end, and then I said, ooh, now I want to have a new campaign, and it's going to be based in Greyhawk, or I'm going to have a new campaign, it's going to be based in this other, right? So I do, so every few years I'll do a new campaign, right? And so I was thinking about that and said, well, Planet Apocalypse destroys the world. What about, since I've had to destroy my campaign several times, and other people have done that, what if, to be fair, Scott, the Pantheon of Carthage wasn't that far away from demons and devils to begin with, in that they, practiced baby sacrifice and terrible things, so it wasn't that much of a stretch to make them be evil, right? I'm not right. So 1974 is I'm playing D&D, and so I thought Planet Apocalypse would be a game that you could use, an expansion to destroy your campaign. It's not a campaign setting; it's the end of your campaign setting. So say you're playing a game in Ravenloft. Okay, so you're playing in Ravenloft, and you say, man, I'm sick of Ravenloft. All these dumb vampires and gothic angsty stuff is too much for me. I want to now play a new game in, what's another game thing, for D&D that is fun? Ravenloft. Besides Ravenloft. Ravenloft's one I'm destroying in my example.
There's the one with giants. There's one with giants.
There's different ones. It doesn't matter. There's the one with giants. There's the one in the desert place. Anyway, so you're going to wipe out Ravenloft. What better? But you've had fun in Ravenloft. You have kind of your hearts on it, So what you do is you bring in Planet Apocalypse, the source book, and it shows you how to destroy Ravenloft in a spectacular catastrophe. So that campaign's over, and the players have a whole campaign of destroying their old campaign. And then when they're done, they go, "Wow, that was is great, and then you go on to your new place. Or if you want, you can take it. It's not just that. You can also take Planet Apocalypse 5 for 5e. And instead of destroying your thing, you can just threaten to destroy it. Maybe the players can pull off a win. And if they do, that's great. I'm not saying, by the way, you have to wipe out your players even if the world is destroyed. Maybe at the end of it, they escape to the new place, right? And the other possibility is that you don't want to destroy your world or threaten to destroy it. You just want a whole bunch of really cool demons, really cool spells, really cool rituals, really cool stuff to add to your game. And the conceit behind the entities of Planet Apocalypse are that we know that in D&D there's the ninefold path of you have your alignment, right? So your lawful good, your lawful evil, your neutral whatever, right? Silly chaotic, whatever. You have your thing, right? So the idea here is that, but we know that there's chaos evil, neutral evil, and lawful evil, but they all share the concept of evil, right? Lawful evil is evil. Chaotic evil is evil. That means that somewhere underneath there's an underlying thing that is just evil. It's not lawful, it's not neutral, it's not chaotic, but it's the source of evil. And that's the Underfiend's lair, and that's where the demons are coming from Planet Apocalypse. They're bubbling up from this thing, the evil down below, and they come up and bring the evil with them. And one of the effects they have is that the other evil things in your world have to choose whether they are joining the fiends or whether they're trying to fight against them to retain their own worldview of lawful evil or chaos evil, whatever, So, like, will the dragons join them or not join them? Will the demons and devils join them or not join them? That's kind of for you to work out. Now, we haven't given you the full campaign for Planet Apocalypse, and part of that is because we don't know what your world is built like. But we've given you 3 adventures, one set at the beginning of the campaign, basically in a bar, right? All campaigns start there, right? One of them in the middle, and one for the final, which is the dragon, and one near the end. So you can kind of see how the campaign arc would go, and then you can fit it into your world and have the stuff. So that's how that goes. So. Yeah, I remember Asheron's Call blowing up the world was cool. When Ensemble Studios was gonna do the Titan game, our plan to end, which was gonna be actually in the Halo universe, science fiction game in the Halo universe, massively multiplayer. Our plan when it got old to turn it off was to set off the Halos and destroy all intelligent life. So let's see, going back to the questions, how did I start on the original Call of Cthulhu RPG back in the day? Okay, so I was, of course, a big Lovecraft fan, and I started by doing expansions for Chaosium, and I did this book called Gateway Bestiary that had a bunch of monsters, and some of the monsters were Lovecraft monsters because I liked Lovecraft monsters, and then I contacted Chaosium. Basically, Chaosium called me and said, we have got the rights to do a game based on Lovecraft's work. We're going to call it Dark Worlds, which they didn't, but and we want you to write it because you love Lovecraft and you'd never miss a deadline. So that's how I got, that's where it came from. And I was really excited to do it. It was my first full game I ever designed. And so, okay. Let's see. So Planet Apocalypse is about destroying your world, which I think is cool. And of course, it's not set in the same setting as the actual Planet Apocalypse board game, which is in modern times because you're in the back things. So, okay. Lynn Allen asks, will there be a chance to get in on Cthulhu Wars again? I've missed all the Kickstarters. We will probably never do another Kickstarter for Cthulhu Wars. We are planning to keep Cthulhu Wars in print with all our efforts. So it will be available in stores, on Amazon, on a Petersen Games website, Miniature Market, and other places. So you'll be able to get Cthulhu Wars, but we're probably not going to do it. It's highly unlikely we will ever do another Kickstarter for it. It's not because we're letting it go out of print. We are trying to keep it in print. In fact, it'll probably be more in print in the future than it has been because instead of having to reprint every single thing in one giant glurge of stuff, we can reprint things as they go out. So we can say, oh, it's time to do the Ancients again. We'll just print the Ancients, and then it'll be cheaper for us, easier for us to do, and that's what we're going to do. So one guy wants to have more flavor story behind the heroes. So Stanley Chang wants that. So I'm not the world's most friendly person to doing flavor text. Like when I played World of Warcraft, I never read the books in the libraries. I just would go do my adventures. I did write flavor text for the hyperspace aliens, and I also wrote flavor text for each of the heroes in Dinosaur 1944. They all have a story, and then the flavor text is like a story about what happens to them. For Planet Apocalypse, people get just like a brief blurb, like battle-scarred burnout, tough little scrapper, doomed psychotic, road warrior. So that's all I have for Planet Apocalypse. I guess I could write more, but I'm not sure how much that would add for most people, and, it's gotten along without it so far. So I guess there's that. We had official game music for Cthulhu Wars. Yes, that was done for us by someone else, and we might have official music for Planet Apocalypse if that same guy wants to do it. It is possible that we will do Planet Apocalypse 5 sagas like we did Cthulhu Mythos. Probably what we would do is we would take one of the Cthulhu Mythos sagas sections and do a Planet Apocalypse one instead of one of those. It kind of depends on how well the Planet Apocalypse books do in the current campaign, and they're doing okay. We can't tell how good they are because people that are buying the board game don't track in our stats as buying the book unless they add the book in the Kickstarter later on in the Pledge Manager, and when the Pledge Manager goes live, we'll see how many of them also get the book. We'll add that to the people who actually got the book, and then we'll know if we should do Planet Apocalypse 5 sagas. Could I make a Commander Keen board game? I cannot make a Commander Keen board game because I do not have the rights to do Commander Keen. I also don't have the rights to do Doom, but Spider, Mastermind, and things like that are not copyrighted, so I can do them. Satya wants to ask about a Cthulhu Wars Travel Edition. My lips are sealed. Are there any non-faction Cthulhu Wars expansions I would recommend for the 2-player variant? The maps is what I would recommend for that. What is my favorite race in hyperspace? Ooh. It might be the Broodmasters, because they're the first alien race I ever made up as a kid. I was 14 years old or 13 years old, and I had made up these. Me and my friends all made up aliens to play in our games together, and so one of them made artificial Frankenstein monsters that were just worker drones, and one of them made space vampires, and one of them had essentially humans or Klingons or something. And then my alien race were the Broodmasters, which are these giant blob monsters that use telepathy to control little spider or tick-like droids. And so you can see that already at the age of 12 there was something wrong with me. But that was the Broodmasters. And then I worked on it. I thought, what would a real telepath be like if he was actually telepathic and control things? I thought, well, he wouldn't have to have any senses because his controlled droids, or not droids, but the little drones that he would breed would have all the senses. They would have sight and hearing, so they would just go out and bring back food. So he's blind, he's deaf, they do all the work. He's just a giant immobile thing that hides underground and tries to be safe. So I made the Broodmasters be monstrously selfish, very territorial, because one Broodmaster can cover a lot of territory. And so they're actually turned out to be really villainous. So there it is. So G-Man, I sympathize with you about the Grant the Gods War game. I think it was really good, and a lot of people, including one of my very best friends, Chris Lemons, thinks it is better than Cthulhu Wars. But there it is. So it is what it is. What does it feel like to be those? Well, I haven't watched anyone else in the last 24 hours, so I don't know for a fact that I'm the most interesting person. But so hyperspace, I've heard I want to do a wave 2 of expansions with 5 new civilizations. Is that true? It is. I kind of have to wait for hyperspace itself to come out, and if it wasn't for that virus, it'd be out right now. You'd be playing it, so I'm really sad about that. But I do have new civilizations I'm looking at. Can we have an assimilator species? Let's see what my species are that I have. I guess you're a fan of the Borg, so I guess I'll leave that secret because I have to get Hyperspace out first. But what I do have coming out besides Hyperspace is I have a tactical combat game of where you have the ship-to-ship combat, and I'm already starting to playtest a role-playing game set in that universe, so you can like be the assimilator species. Asaf Hamsani is picking a color for the cats in Cataclysm. I leave that decision completely up to my art team and my production team. You will have to ask them. Who is my favorite son? Well, Lincoln's sitting right here next to me. So if I don't say him, he'll be hurt. And Arthur's listening on the Kickstarter thing right here. So if I don't say him, he'll be hurt. So I guess I'll have to say Grant or Spencer. Or maybe one of the grandsons would be better. Cecil or someone. They're pretty great. The actual fact about the favorite son thing is that the favorite son kind of moves around from person to person. And one of the main criterions for favorite son is how many grandkids I have from them. So Arthur has given me 4 grandkids, and Lincoln has given me 4 grandkids, and Grant has 4 grandkids so far and 1 more on the way. So when he has 5 grandkids, by definition, he'll be the best. However, he kind of cheated because 2 of the grandkids are step-grandkids. But my favorite Lovecraftian movie out there, I got to give it up for Reanimator. Although it's not really Lovecraftian, but it's based on a Lovecraft story. I love... I really like Reanimator a lot. It was the first actually good Lovecraft movie. Oh, wait, what am I thinking? The best Lovecraft movie of all time is The Whisperer in Darkness, the one that I was the executive producer of. So there it is. So, Cybermen, you know what? I actually like Cybermen more than the Borg, although I like Star Trek a lot. And the reason I like Cybermen more is because they're more terrifying, because there's cases of people coming back from being Borg, like Picard, but no one comes back from being a Cyberman. It's all over. So that was cool. When am I going to make a dungeon crawler? A dungeon crawler is not hyperspace dungeon crawly enough. Hello from Belgium. I've been to Belgium. I have been to Waterloo, which I thought had kind of a lame monument. I have been to the Brussels and traveled all through Belgium. So any more news on the Carcosa? Our Carcosa is still on the back burner. Have I read Stephen King's short story N? No, I haven't. I really like Grandma, which is turned into a movie, Mercy, which is really good. Is the Brood game public knowledge now? I think it is. It's the Brood game. I mentioned it earlier. So there's this game. So in the spring of 2019, here's a glimpse into my game design process, how it sometimes works. I've mentioned before publicly that dreams are a major influence on my stuff. So this is a good example of that, because what happened is that I had a dream, and in the dream I was designing a game about Broodmaster's invasion Earth. I don't know where this came from in my subconscious, right? It was after we'd done the Hyperspace Kickstarter. And in the game I was like, oh, and you have to have Broodmaster larvae that land on Earth and grow into big broodmasters and take over the humans and control them and get more and more powerful and the humans have to kill them, and it's an asymmetrical game. And then I woke up and said, that was a weird game. I designed a whole game out of whole cloth in my dream. That was crazy. And then a few months later I said, I kept thinking about that game. I said, I should try to make that game. And so in the fall of 2019, I designed a 2-player game about broodmasters conquering Earth, or trying to, and made it very non-symmetrical between the two sides. Like, the turn structure is totally different. The humans do things in like a fixed order. They have numbers on their side. The broodmaster has to grow and expand and be tricky. And the humans have diplomacy with other humans. They have to wake up people to the danger and the doom of the brood. And oh, you know what? I just thought of something. So you can see this shirt I'm wearing. It says Doom on it. I just picked a shirt randomly out of my drawer, but this is no ordinary Doom shirt. This Doom shirt was printed in 1994. And here's why it's cool and why you don't have one. Here's what it says on the back. Can y'all read that? Wrote it. That's the shirt that we took to GDC as id Software and got. Well, we didn't get all the babes actually, but we had all the computer geeks were like all jealous that we had the Doom Wrote It shirt. So not many people got these shirts. So okay, let's see. Pitt is our French guy, yeah. He is our ambassador. We love him. What fonts? Okay, so the font that's used on the cover, the big weird font we use for all the big things like yours, that's the Abaddon font. And I know that my art team hates it because it's like only like a stub of a font, like it doesn't have numbers. So there's that. So Invasion of the Brood, like I said, like the Broodmaster turn is first they land a Broodmaster, a larva Broodmaster firing them off from the moon. They have a moon base, right? And then they gather their mind power, and then they use the mind power to take over human things and move them around. They spend it to move and to fight and to take over factories. And when they get a factory controlled in every major human nation, which there's 6 major human nations, then they win. And the humans, on their turn, they do diplomacy to wake up people to the threat of the Brood. Then they build Project Orion, which is the giant nuclear rocket they're going to build to go to the moon and blow it up and kill the Broodmaster. And if they ever get 6 Project Orion pieces in orbit, then they win. So they build it, and then they move, and then they fight, and then they produce. And if the Broodmaster wants to fight, he spends 1 mind power and has this guy fight. If the humans just have every single unit on the map fight if they want. But, they have to be in the right place. But they have to do it in the right order. So that's the Broodmasters. So, yeah, Abaddon is the font. I know, isn't that a great name for a font? So that's the thing. I don't remember the Palladium mechanoids. But any race can be scary if you use it properly, I think. Now, one of the features of hyperspace, so let's see, Invasion of the Brood, which, I don't know what the other fonts are, Paul, that we used in the storyblurbs. So the storyblurbs are all different fonts, right? Because we picked fonts that were different according to which story we were writing. So one of them I think is just newspaper. One of them is supposed to look like a printed page from a film noir. They're all different. They're all random fonts, so I don't know. So that's how that is. So what percentage of Glorantha lore is mine over the years? So here is my 3 comments about Greg. So first, I don't know what my percentage of lore is, and part of the reason I don't is obviously Greg did most of it because he was doing it for years before he met me. But when I worked with Greg, we were working super tightly together to do the things, and it wasn't a matter of I made up something. I mean, I made up some things, right? I made up most of Pameltella and stuff like that, and the East Isles. But it was more a matter of Greg would say, I want to have this thing, and I would say, oh, I'll riff on it. That should be into this, and then he says, oh yeah, and that connects to this, and then and so it'd be a back and forth of rapid patter, and at the end of it, we'd have some new creation. Like the Black Sun or the White Moon cult. That was both of us going back and forth. I don't know what percentage is his and mine, but it kind of was. Maybe it was mostly his because he would originate it, and then I would say that fits into this other thing you've said, and he would say, oh, and that fits into this other thing, and then we end up with it. So that was that. So we were pretty close. We did. I mean, great. When I left Chaosium in 1988. Greg almost shut down the company because he felt that it was like, he says, I don't think you're the heart of the company, Sandy, but you're an important organ, like the liver or something, and maybe we can't continue, but, anyway, but they did. And my favorite Greg anecdote, I guess my favorite Greg anecdote is this. So, I was handed the game Call of Cthulhu to design. And here's the thing that shows what a great game, what a great guy, what a smart guy Greg was. Now, you guys, I'm sure, have all seen or know about the terrible Batman and Robin movie where, Batman has nipples and a bat credit card, and it's just, a disastrously bad, right? So, but the first Batman movie with Jack Nicholson was pretty good. And the second one was decent, with Penguin and Catwoman. It wasn't bad, and then it kind of kept getting worse. And this is pretty common in comic book movies. Like, the first movie is done by someone that respects the genre, and it's good. The second one is done by someone who is like, they got the first director to come back and do one, and he does another one, and then that director doesn't want to do any more Batman. He goes off, and they bring in the Hollywood stoots bring in some new guy who obviously knows that that comic books are just for kids and nobody respects them. This is not so much the case now that Marvel like universe is really huge, but back in the day, this is how it always worked. So the third movie in like the Superman series or the Batman series, whatever it is, was always super terrible because the guy doing it said nobody can really like Batman or Superman, so I'll be all snarky about it and make fun of it, and that'll be what people really want. And of course, nobody wanted it, and the movie tanked and it was a disaster, right? So Greg, here's the thing. So Greg says the opinion in 1980 when we were doing this is that Lovecraft was a terrible hack that nobody would like. Okay. So Greg had never read Lovecraft, and Greg didn't respect Lovecraft. He thought he was a terrible hack, but he wanted to do a game based on it. Now, 99 companies out of 100 would go ahead and do the game based on Lovecraft and basically be a little snarky about it and kind of making fun of it. And the guys at Chaosium, knew that if they did the game of Lovecraft, they would be that way because they didn't respect Lovecraft. So they wouldn't respect the source material, they wouldn't respect the ethos, they wouldn't respect the creepiness, they wouldn't read the books, they didn't want to. So they would do a crappy job of turning Lovecraft into a game. They knew that I loved and respected Lovecraft, and Greg was that 100th company. He said, we're going to give the game to a guy that loves it because he then will do a good job and make it and do it right, and we won't. He knew that his attitude towards Lovecraft, that it was sucky, was the wrong attitude to make the game, and that's what he did. And the other thing he did with it that was pretty amazing is that he also knew that he needed to get the Chaosium guys to somehow buy into Call of Cthulhu anyway, because they're going to be doing tons of support for the game. Remember, when I did Call of Cthulhu, I wasn't even an employee. I was a freelancer living in Utah. And so Greg knew we have to have some way of making this, having our guys buy and would like it, and that's where the 1920s theme came from. Everyone thought the 20s were cool, so they said, we'll hang our hats on the 1920s thing and make it fun for us, and then Sandy will put in the horror and make it fun for the Cthulhu fans, and we'll end up with a great game. And that was sheer genius on Greg. That I don't think any other game company ever would have done something that smart. So Luke is talking about Invasion of the Brood. It is very fast to play. It's like a half an hour, 45 minutes tops, and it's really different every time. And there's the thing. What do I think of a game like Kingdom Death Monster? Kingdom Death Monster is a little like Cthulhu Wars in a way because it's also a giant luxury game. And I don't think, and one of the criticisms of Kingdom Death and Cthulhu Wars is that they're super expensive. Who can afford? I can buy 5 normal games for the cost of one Cthulhu Wars or Kingdom Death Monster, which is true. But it's my opinion that it's okay to have some luxury games on your shelf. You don't when you go out and have Sandy buy you a steak dinner because you beat the Spider Mastermind. You don't complain that it costs more than eating the McDonald's. Right? If you are driving an Acura instead of a Hyundai, you don't whine about how much more. You just suck it up and say, "I got an Acura. I got a better car." Right? Not dissing Hyundai, but that what I'm talking about. So the idea is that it's okay for a gamer to have an occasional game on his shelf, which is a luxury game, which is a special game with really good production values, cool figures, great replayable gameplay, a really strong game. So Cthulhu Wars, Kingdom Death Monster, and some other games fall into that category, and that's what those are. So I probably is not the question you're trying to ask about Kingdom Death Monster, but that's how I think of it. Are there games I've bought and not played? So let me take this camera, and I'm going to show you a little bit of my game, part of my game library. So if you watch this, you will see that the game library goes way over. That's Lincoln, by the way, my son. And then on here it goes over here, and there's more games. Look, there's the big ogre. See, and Mega Civilization. Check it out. And then it goes over there. And this over there are some of my games, right? And then if you look on that far shelf, there's more up high, And then there's the role-playing games are like upstairs in a bedroom, and they cover a wall. And there's card games everywhere. So I have a lot of games. And so yes, some of these games I have not played, but I have played almost all the games here at least once. Let's see, I can probably find some right here. I probably played 90% of them. Let's see, I haven't played Interceptor. I have not played Dragonfire, and I have not played Hoplo Matches. So I have unopened copies of Rommel in the Desert, but I've totally played it. I love Rommel in the Desert. So there's games I haven't played. Is my best story the one about we tried to break into the Père Lachaise cemetery? I don't know if that's my best story, but we did try to break into the Père Lachaise cemetery. So we were in Paris, and Greg wanted to go and see the grave of Jim Morrison, because duh, right? Greg's a hippie, and I wanted to see someone else's grave. I can't remember now who the person I was looking for. It was some horror writer, you know, and I can't remember who it was. This is like 1987. So we went to the grave. So we went there, and it was really late. It was like 11. We were actually originally going to go through the catacombs, but then our guide to the catacombs bailed on us. So we can't go. We don't want to go to the catacombs alone. We'll be eaten by a lich or something, right? So we go to the graveyard, and there's the big gate, and we go, it's closed. Well, we'll climb over the wall. So we go out there. We're looking to see how we can get over the wall, and as we're making our plans to scale the wall and break into the cemetery, Greg looks over, and there's an unmarked car with a cop in it, like watching us, and we go, oh, so we like powered down and waved at the cop and went home. So the undead whale in the upland marsh was not me. That was totally actually that might have been Ken Coffer. Contract my days at Chaosium and my days at id. No. Call of Cthulhu is still one of the pinnacles of role-playing. Call of Cthulhu, here's why Call of Cthulhu was so strong, and I'm not saying it's my doing necessarily. I mean, some of it obviously was. Here's the reason. Call of Cthulhu is a contrarian game. Your typical role-playing game is you go out, you have an encounter, usually combat, you get loot and experience points and whatever, and you get more strong, and you go back and you rinse and repeat. You go out and kill the monster, get stronger, get better. Kill the monster, get stronger. And it's this cycle which every video game follows, which is fun and addictive. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with that cycle. Call of Cthulhu didn't do that. In Call of Cthulhu, you go out and kill the monster, and your reward is a moldy old book that makes you go crazy by looking at the pictures. Or your reward is the world is saved, but we can't tell anyone, it's too horrible. You don't get the same kind of reward. Also, most role-playing games, combat's like a huge part of it. Call of Cthulhu, part of the main goals of the game is to like not get in combat, because everything that fights can kill you. I mean, even cultists can kill you. You know, because the cultists are just as well armed as you are, they're just as smart as you are, and they're better organized and probably more ruthless. So everything's there's no equivalent of like sturges or rubble runners or kobolds. There's only deadly things. Even the littlest monsters in Call of Cthulhu, like Brown Jenkin, are a dire threat. I mean, Brown Jenkin literally dimension gates inside the guy's chest in Dreams of the Witch House and chooses his way out. How do you fight against that, right? So everything's dangerous. So Call of Cthulhu, you're not getting rewards, you're not doing combat. Instead, you're like searching through libraries or finding old books or going through graveyards. And so this gave away for a game that wasn't combat, that was about research and experience and other things and horror and not the regular thing. Now, I'm not saying there's anything bad with the kill monsters get better, but if you didn't want to do that or wanted a break from that, Call of Cthulhu was literally the only game that gave you that. Every other game was the fight get better. And one of the things that I think a lot of the follow-up horror games like Chill and whatever got wrong is that they decided to make their horror games more like the regular games. Well, if you're going to play a game where you kill monsters to get better, why not just play D&D? You know, why play Chill or something else? But if you want to play a game where you are not better than the average person, you are a weak person with the terrible monster. It's a very proletarian game, and you feel doomed all the time, and it's always scary. If you want to do a horror movie game, then Call of Cthulhu was and is it. And that was the secret of it. Do I enjoy working on and designing role-playing games or board games more? It's kind of like asking if which of my kids I like better. I've done more board games. I really like doing board games. I'm currently back in the saddle trying to do a role-playing game and trying to get there. So maybe it's too early for me to know like that. So, any plans for a 6th player for Evil High Priest? Lincoln? Lincoln is the designer. I know my name's first on the cover, but Lincoln is actually the designer.
What did you say?
Are you going to do a 6th player for Evil High Priest?
No.
He says no. Sorry about that. I need to... Okay, Luke, I have many copies of the Mythos New Eon cards. So you just send me a list. What would be my grail game, says Sacha. Okay, my holy grail of games, in fact, was Cthulhu Wars. That was my final game I was ever going to do. And after that, I was going to go to India and do phone games. That was my plan. And so I wanted this game to be the most spectacular, best, most amazing Cthulhu game ever done. That's one of the reasons the figures are so big, because I wanted them to be 28 millimeter scale so that I could use them in Call of Cthulhu and D&D and stuff. So there it is. That was my Grail game. Now I'm doing other games that I really like. Hyperspace is kind of a Grail. I'm pretty much doing mostly Grail games now. Hyperspace is kind of a Grail game because I always wanted to have that universe. My idea of science fiction where the aliens are really alien. There's no humanoids. I mean, I love Star Trek, but if I ever see another alien with a crinkle cut French fry on his nose, it'll kill me. So which version of Call of Cthulhu? I always play Call of Cthulhu in the modern day setting. Okay, Lovecraft wasn't writing in the 20s setting. I mean, he was because it was the 20s when he wrote it, but he was actually writing it in what he saw as the modern setting. He has cutting-edge new technology, the discovery of Pluto, undersea submarines, airplanes exploring the Antarctic, ultraviolet rays. He is trying to be as advanced and scientific as he can. He's not being quaint and old-fashioned. And when I ran Call of Cthulhu in the 20s, I didn't reference the 20s very much. I just played it, and the things that are, and they have cars, they have guns, they have telephones. I just use that, right? And when I run it now, it's almost always modern age. So, okay, so it's 2:00, and I have talked randomly for almost an hour. So I will take one more question. So first come, first serve. Andrew Jones just placed the order for the Mega Bundle. You are the wind beneath my wings, Andrew. That's not a question, though, so I'm still waiting for a question. And I don't have a question okay, something I have to do every time I visit him. Scott, knock on the window at night? Yeah. So I'll just tell you a nightmare that I had, a repeating nightmare. So a recurring nightmare of mine is that I am in my grandfather's or another house, and it's old and musty. Oh, I call Paul. Okay, what's my favorite game I didn't work on? World in Flames is a favorite game of mine. Also, okay, so here's 4 games I really, really, really like that I didn't have anything to do with. I love Cosmic Encounter. That is a fabulous game. I love World in Flames, which is my favorite World War II game. I love Contract Bridge, the card game. So there are 3 games I like that are very different. What am I reading right now? Right now, I am reading The Complete Ghost Stories of E.F. Benson. Sandy, will you please adopt me? My wife would have to be in on the deal, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility. Do you have lots of grandkids to add to my zoo? Okay. Thank you for talking. So long, all. Note Lincoln's shirt has octopuses on it, which is fabulous. And believe it or not, one of the legally correct plurals for octopus is octopussy. So I use that every chance I get because it really bugs my wife.